And yes, it's a great day to be back after the news of yesterday talking about the Warriors. I'm wearing my She Believes. This is a shirt from when I used to work from the Warriors. We weren't allowed to use it because it was actually the U.S. women's national team's like motto. And so we just made it for the women internally. But I'm wearing it now because hopefully they make like an exception for us to be able to use it.
Well, I like it, and I do believe, and I believe in the vision of Joe Lacob, who is already being very Joe Lacob-y, declaring that this new team that we don't even fully know the name of yet will win a championship within their first 5 years. He said the same thing for the Warriors, Zena, and that came true. So why not?
I mean, he's a person that definitely makes these big declarations, and he puts his money where his mouth is. And if there's any owner that you can make sure and you can ensure that he will put the money and invest in the resources necessary for that declaration to come true, it's Joe Lacob. You've seen him do it with the Warriors, and now we're going to see it with whatever this team is going to be named. We're still anticipating that name, but I can definitely imagine he's going to do whatever he can to make that promise come true.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this rollout. Like, I'm even enjoying like all the various videos, and even like they already clearly have, at least for now, sort of their color scheme style. Like, I pay attention to this. So if you look at all the graphics and everything that they tweeted and put on Instagram, they already sort of have their look and feel. And they already have their accounts, WNBA Golden State, right? As you can see. Right. So they were ready to go. They were ready to roll this out. And it's exciting. And I know the Bay is excited. Like, I already saw they have tons of followers on both the Instagram and the Twitter account. This is an exciting thing. I just think in general, the Bay Area is an exciting thing, an exciting place for sports, which is so unfortunate. Sidebar that they lost the A's, as we know Joe Lacob would like to dip his hand in purchasing them if they ever become available. Right. But in general, the Bay Area, I just think is such it's just the area to me for sports. Like, everything's popping 1000%. There. Multiple sports. When you also think of like the tech industry that's out there, I just think it's a vibe. So I've always loved the idea of a WNBA team expanding to the Bay Area. And I also, I was going to just say, I also really like that, there are some people who have reservations about WNBA teams being owned by an NBA team. And I understand those reservations, and they're valid. But I believe that Joe Lacob is not an owner you have to worry about. The Warriors ownership group is not one of those. And if you are going to have a WNBA team that is owned by an NBA team, you want it to be the Golden State Warriors. And this organization probably better than me, Zena. You're there. You used to work for the Warriors. So can you help to kind of break down a little bit why that is the case? I saw like me and you kind of going back and forth with people on Twitter, but why, like, what's different about Joe Lacob as the owner and what he will mean for this new expansion team?
Yeah, there's a lot of feelings I feel, having worked for the Warriors, having been a part of the conversation when this came to be as an idea for the Warriors to bring about a WNBA team, and now to see it to come to fruition is more than exciting. Now, exactly as you said, the reasons that people are a little bit about having an NBA team bring a WNBA team. I talked about this on the Athletic Women's Basketball podcast that came out today. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's reservations that make sense, right? You want a team that stands on its own, that doesn't necessarily feel like an afterthought to an NBA team, that seems like a little sister to the big brother NBA team. I get that. You want to make sure that they have the right resources, they have the right staff, they have all the right things in order for this team to thrive. Like you said, Joe Lacob is someone that you don't have to worry about that. Why? Because if you know your women's basketball history from way back, even before the WNBA, you'll know that Joe Lacob was spending money when it wasn't even cool to spend money in women's sports. He put $10 million of his own money into the San Jose Lasers in the American Basketball League before the inception of the WNBA. So he's someone that has been committed to this for a while. Then also, moreover, when you think about these facilities, I know that was another concept and a topic that was hot on the Twitter net of the WNBA Twitter of, they're going to get the leftovers of the NBA players. And it's like, have you ever heard Steph Clay, Dre, KD, any of them complain about those facilities? Have you ever heard any of anyone in the NBA and the WNBA that has used those facilities? Breonna Stewart was just there. The league's MVP was just there, never complaining about these facilities as if they were subpar or below par for what a WNBA player would deserve. These facilities are not only what the champions used to be able to practice to get to that level, but they've been renovated to make sure that the Warriors could stay committed to their efforts within the community and to their youth camps. It's one of the best facilities in the country when it comes to practice facilities and youth camps, and it will be more than enough for a WNBA team. And trust me, again, if they need more, you can assure that Joe Lacob will make sure that they get it. So I am more than convinced. I'm not even trying to cape for them. I'm not even trying to make sure that, say that the Warriors are perfect. Every team or every organization has their flaws. But when I tell you with this effort, I know that they are committed to this and they're going to do this right. And they're going to do right by these teams.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually love that they're going to practice in Oakland. So it feels like there's still some connection to Oakland because so many things have been taken from Oakland. So I love that. And I think what's important to point out is part of the reason it's set up like that is so there never becomes a conflict that arises, right? They're still going to play in Chase, right? They're still going to play in the marquee place, right? But now there's no schedule conflicts. There's no, when something needs to happen, they're getting bumped to the side, which sometimes could happen with WNBA franchises in the past. So this was deliberate. So for a reason, but they're still going to play and be at Chase Arena, which, as you know, is a beautiful arena. So I am super excited about this. I'm excited about the fact that we know there's going to be more expansion. So there's talks of Portland most likely being next. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, not that Portland isn't deserving of a WNBA franchise, so that's not what I mean. But there's just some other places that I could really envision one. Toronto was definitely one of them, but they recently took themselves out of the bidding, which is really sad and unfortunate. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, because they had that game there, if you recall, and it was a tremendous turnout. Can we this map is really interesting to me because this is where the existing teams are. So if you just kind of look at it geographically, so you're going to be adding, the Bay, right? So Northern, can we go back to the map, please? So we're going to be adding the Bay to Northern California when you're looking at that map. So that'll be 2 teams in California and then Portland. So it'll all sort of be on that Western region. I guess it's sort of evened out, but there's some other places that I would like to see teams. I mentioned Toronto already. Denver's in the running. I don't know that I would bump them necessarily over a Portland. Miami, South Florida, never been in the mix, but I think that would be a cool location.
They had a team. They had the Miami Soul,
Yeah, so there's some other teams.
When it comes to, there was what you mentioned even before jumping into this part, when you talked about the scheduling and the non-conflicts, you perfectly transitioned to Toronto, right? And this is another reason why the Warriors are a perfect match, because Joe Lacob is willing to look at his calendar at Chase Center and make room for a WNBA team. And that's the issue that other NBA programs and other sports entertainment properties aren't willing to do. They're not seeing the value in being able to give up concerts over a WNBA franchise. And that's what ultimately led to Toronto pulling out, the MLSC pulling out from that conversation. I do think when it comes to expansion, even though Toronto had that really amazing game, we still have to think about the realities and the pragmatic aspects of the league. If they're still struggling with charters, they're still struggling with flights, having a team out of the country might be a little bit of a big goal. For sure. Right? I feel like you got to fix how to get these teams to the teams within the country first before you start talking about technically international travel. So that's my thought on the expansion for sure.
I think West Coast presents some of those same issues, which is why I'm sort of surprised they're going with a Portland, right? We know the Sparks like the way that their schedule was very wonky because they're a West Coast team. I imagine that this new team from the Bay would experience the same thing. So, you know, there's been talks of like, I believe Nashville, but in Tennessee was like, to me, that could be like a cool area vibe for a team. Like I had started to say like, no talks of Miami, but I feel like Florida needs a team. So, but these are sort of the teams right now that are targets. We know Toronto took themselves out the running, and the Bay was one, obviously, and they're going to actually expand there. So these are the remaining teams. Which ones do you like of these locations, Zena?
I mean, as a North Carolinian, I'm all about Charlotte. I think Charlotte's a great place to have a team. When you think about the fan bases and think about families and think about trying to get the next generation into it, I love these familial type of places. So Nashville gets me excited. Charlotte gets me excited. We did hear from some folks about Philly. We hear you, Philly.
Sports.
We know.
Eagles fan, so I should have shouted out Philly from the top. Philly sports.
I feel it too. I do feel it too with Philly, especially when you look at that college landscape. I mean, they have such a high concentrated level of top programs year in, year out in Philadelphia. And there's a lot of respect for women's basketball there too. So yeah, that part, you know, a little bit, I felt like, man, you know, maybe Philly over Portland, but Portland has some love too, right? Everyone's seen what they've done to support the Portland Thorns with the NWSL. That Portland Sports Bra Bar is really cool. And the only bar that I know of that has a concept focused on women's sports and supporting women's sports. So there is an atmosphere for it in Portland. And so we'll have to see what happens there. But what I love most by far is anytime I hear billionaire owner, I'm good. I'm thinking Joe Tsai. I'm thinking Matt Ishbia in Phoenix. I'm thinking Mark Davis in Las Vegas. And I'm thinking Joe Lacob in the Bay. I'm thinking people that got money to spend and want to do right by this league and these players. And that really matters to me. So I'm excited by that. Yeah,
and have demonstrated, because Joe Tsai, like, I mean, we know he was willing to pay for the charter flights and
willing to take fines.
Yeah,
that's love. Yeah, that's appreciation and respect for a game and for players. And I think that that's what really matters. So whatever you look at these cities, who's behind it, who's got the money, who's lined it up, and I think that's what the WNBA also cares about too, is making sure that whoever's getting involved in this is serious about it.
For sure. Well, look, everyone's excited about the Bay getting a team. We saw Stephen Curry welcoming them in a video. Gary Payton II did. Klay Thompson had words. Steve Kerr was in the video. We know that the Warriors, the team, the coaches, the staff, everyone is excited, right?
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.